Hey everyone, I'm Stephanie, host and head bookologist here at the Get Literate podcast. I'm a book-loving, notebook-hoarding reader and writer on a mission to change lives one book and one notebook at a time. On this podcast, we explore the power of bookology and leading literate lives. We talk all things books and reading and notebooks and writing, mixed in with mindful practices and creativity to create lives we love. You can expect regular weekly episodes focused on 3 books you need to know about on a bookish theme and how to bring those themes to life in our actual lives too. You can also expect author interviews, notebooking inspiration, and topics to help us grow through what we go through and take inspired action to make our lives better. So grab a notebook and your TBR list and let's get literate. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Get Literate podcast. Today I'm talking about 2 things that you know I love: notebooking and the power of one word. Now, most of you know that I used to choose a one-word theme for my entire year, just like many of you listening did too. But once COVID hit, I realized that choosing a single word for a year like 2020 was just not sustainable. So instead, I shifted to choosing monthly words, and I've never looked back. Each month, I choose one word to guide my reading, my writing, my learning, the things that I do in my actual life. And I surround myself with books and notebook prompts and new things to try as a result of that one word. Well, today's guest shares those particular loves of notebooking and the power of a one-word theme too. So today, I'm here with Becca, who is going to talk about her particular one-word journaling practice and all the things that come along with it. So Becca, welcome to the Get Literate podcast. So glad to have you here today.
Thank you, Stephanie. I am really excited to be here. Anybody who has a passion for journaling, or as you call it, notebooking, is somebody that I want to be in contact with. So thank you.
Well said. Let's start by having you just give listeners a sneak peek into who you are and where you are and a little bit about your journaling passions.
Thanks. I am a proud wife, mom to a college-age son. I'm a deep person of faith, and I'm a teacher going into year 23 of service. I'm also an international best-selling author, a podcaster. I have a podcast about journaling, and a staff writer for Women Who Podcast magazine. Hearing women's voices is very important to me. To cope with some personal trauma at the age of 8, I began journaling as a self-care practice. It was my best friend and continues to be. It's a tool for my personal spiritual discoveries, my growth, and of course, as a teacher, I use it for social emotional learning and literary discoveries with students. I am proud to say I live in the gorgeous Adirondack Mountains of New York State, and I never want to live anywhere else. I love it here.
Yeah, I think that's what I love even more about our conversation is we may be talking virtually, but we're literally less than 2 hours from each other, which is so nice to know. You know, we met online and here we are, not too far away. And you're right, it's beautiful. It is just a beautiful area that you live in. Cold in the winter, but beautiful.
For sure. Those negative 30-degree nights will inspire you to cozy down and read a good book for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely good reading and writing weather. Now, you threw a whole lot out there that I know we're going to unpack a little bit. So eventually we'll have you tell listeners about your podcast and the work that you do through some of our conversations. But I wanted to touch upon how you started notebooking. You mentioned, or journaling, interchangeable in my mind. You know, most of us who come to this podcast, who I talk to, notebooking and journaling really is a form of self-care. It's a form of self-soothing. It's a form of therapy, you know, no matter what format you take for that. And I think that's something that I'm learning as I talk to more and more people. That's just really a gift. that notebooking and journaling can bring to us. So I love that you just started with that, because it only takes, a writing utensil and a cheap notebook to get a whole lot of benefits from a journaling practice.
That's right. I have always been a journaler, but journaling really became that self-care tool for me when I was in graduate school studying to be a teacher. I was doing research on how to connect with my ELL students. Some of my student teaching responsibilities involved connecting to English language learners, and journaling as a safe place to start became a focus of my research. I happened upon the Center for Journal Therapy. I got to take courses from them. And I've used journaling not only as a self-care practice, but in my professional practice as well ever since.
Mm.
I, at times, have thought about becoming a journal therapist, but the benefits for myself have been life-changing. I can't speak enough to, it's accessible to everybody. Even if you're learning English, it's accessible no matter where you are in the world or what you're going through. And it's one of the most powerful self-care practices in the world.
Yeah. And it's instant. You can walk away from a 15-minute journaling session feeling better than when you started. And you can't say that about all sorts of activities.
That's right. And you can do it in the time spurts that you want. So with
Yeah.
the prompts that you gravitated toward and that I offered, those were 5-minute prompts, but I've offered experiences that last an afternoon or the length of a retreat. You always come away anytime that you're going to do some self-discovery with a better place in your mind than when you started.
Yeah. So let's talk about that project, those prompts that you just mentioned. One of the things that caught my eye on your social media feed, which is when I instantly messaged you, was a project that you did recently about a one-word journaling project. And as I mentioned in the introduction, I am all about the one word. I love just having that one word to hang on to, that one word to anchor myself to kind of ground what I'm doing, to come back to. I love that. But I will admit, I've never just opened my notebook and started with one word to jumpstart my writing. I start with quotes related to the one word. I start with prompts related to the one word. I start with images related to my one word. But I've never actually started with the one word. And so when I saw your post, it was just kind of this glaringly obvious, why haven't you done that yet? And what can you learn from Becca in this practice? So I would love for you to tell us more about that 60-day one word prompt project that you had, like all the things, how it came to be, how it went, what you learned. Tell us how this one word practice supports your journaling.
I was doing a few too many things this winter. I was helping other people publish books. I was publishing my own. I was developing a course. I was podcasting, and I was working. And I really needed to laser focus. And part of my laser focus was studying the art of writing. So as I published my first book, somebody gave me Julia Cameron's Write for Life.
Yes.
And that inspired it all. I had a whole season on my podcast about it. And in my discoveries, I decided that I needed to be more focused. These one word prompts came from the inspiration of a meeting with one of my sister authors in the second book that I published this year. We were just talking about how to focus as people on our goals and what we wanted to get out of life. And I thought to myself, I want to get more out of my own journaling. So I took something that she had done with her coaching clients and applied it to journaling. I was thrilled with the results. And I knew that if I'm a person who loves to sit down and do my morning pages, that somebody on Instagram in 5 minutes could definitely get a lot out of a one word prompt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like you said, it's something it's simple and it's there and it's available, but a lot of people just might not realize that that could be an incredibly accessible tool to really jumpstart their thinking on the page. How did you pick those words? 60 days is a long time. How did you pick all of those?
It is a long time. And as I was developing a journaling course, I knew that I wanted to have a 40-day journaling course. But as a teacher of the journaling course, I wanted to offer choice. So I went through and discovered 60 words with the hopes that the people who would take the course would have some choices in the bank of words at some point. And choices are great because we can apply them to what we need. Just because I needed a certain word doesn't mean that the people taking the course from me would need all those words. So I am a person devoted to the essence of words. I believe that words have energy, and all my writing and all my journaling comes from intuition. So every day I have a prayer routine, a meditation routine that leads to my journaling. I happen to choose from what I call sacred texts, things that bring out the best in me, and whatever those sacred texts would be to a person. The Right for Life was my sacred text for a month. I happen to be a person of faith, so I was reading a book by Sarah Young. I would journal on quotes and phrases personally, and then I would focus it down to one word. And then I would journal on that particular word. I would look it up in the dictionary, look at a couple different definitions from different dictionaries, and then I would laser focus, put the word on the top of the next page and write. And if I got so much from that, I know that giving the essence of the word, the definition of the word to an Instagram reader could help them to take those 5 minutes and really dig in and be laser focused on something that would bring them the same kind of moving through joy that I did every day during those 60 days.
Moving through joy. What a great phrase. I love that. For me, and maybe this was you at one point, maybe it's how some listeners feel as well, but I am an avid morning pager as well. And one thing that I found though is I tend to do the same things in my notebook. I kind of start the same way. I might talk about the same things that are on my mind. And while I know that's good because you just need to write wherever your mind and your heart and your body is, I tend to just get stuck in the routine of the same thing and then wonder if I'm really getting out of my journaling what I need to get out of it. So I've been experimenting lately with prompts, with song lyrics, with book quotes, with kind of generic structures that I'm learning from other people who are so willing to share theirs online. And so I love this idea of using that, not just the one word, right? But exploring, as you said, the essence of it, the definition of it, because reading that definition, pondering that for a moment can just go in whatever direction it needs to go in based on who that person is. So I love that it's structured where it will help me to kind of try something new or think differently, but I can take it wherever it needs to go based on what I feel. I think that's the magic in journaling. When you feel like you've got a place to start, you're not just staring at a blank page, you're not overwhelmed, but that can move with wherever you need to go. So I love that about this project.
I call that process activated energetic discoveries, AED. And
yes, say more about that. I absolutely love some of the acronyms you have. I could not wait to get to them.
activating our energetic discoveries is really easy through a word, because in each person it's going to be tailored to what you need for the day. It's a way to restart your heart. If you're staring at a blank page, you sometimes do feel dead inside. I hate to say it. You feel like you can't even pick up the pen. So having something to focus on and to kind of inspire you is really helpful in the restarting your heart process. And as we know, authors choose words very carefully, but I believe that the words that need to come to us choose us. I really do believe that when we need something, if you build it, they will come. If you need the word, it will come to you. And with each word revealed, a couple definitions in a dictionary will get you started with some ideas to engage yourself. But the words themselves are going to bring up associations, different discoveries, different memories, different things that you need to help energize you toward where you want to go in this particular writing process, whether it be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or if you're an active morning pager like you and I are. I happen to be an intuitive or spiritual person, so I trust the words that come to me, and I hope that other people, because they are activating words, will also use them to find the best parts in themselves.
Mm-hmm. I love that acronym. I love it. Activating energetic discoveries. That I have it right? Activating
Yes.
energetic discoveries. Restarting your heart. I love it. I love it. And I feel a connection to someone else I've talked about on the podcast before. You likely know her work, but Jennifer Arnsbiger. She does a lot of work with somatic journaling, and she says, like, when you're browsing through a list of topics, whether that's a prompt or a question, a word, a song lyric, the one that you suddenly feel, you don't know how, you don't know why, you can't explain it, but there's something energetically there. That's the one you need to go to. You might not know why, and you might have to figure that out as you go on the page. But I love how you said that those words, they find us, right? We got to be willing to listen to them and to kind of be open to exploring them. But it's such a beautiful way of talking about this kind of practice on the page. I love that.
The exploring is a gritty process. It takes bravery. A lot of Julie Cameron's work always talks about, in creativity, having the bravery to follow the leads, of the words. And I call it getting gritty. Journal on, get gritty, journal with it to the other side, which hopefully is more joy.
Yeah. In your process of creating those words, or not creating them, I guess curating them together and engaging in this project, do you have favorites? Because I know I have favorite one words that we have explored in my community. I love sonder, which is the idea that we're connected together. I love conjubilant, which is, shouting together with joy. Some of the words that have been in the community have just really resonated with me more than others. And so I'm curious, because you have a list of beautiful words. There are so many there that I think I could have opened my notebook and started on. But are there words that spoke particularly to you, or words that you think are just natural devices, I guess, to restart your heart on the page?
I can honestly say that day 35, smack dab, almost just over the hump in the middle of the 60 days, the word whisper came up. And we live in such a society where everybody just wants to shout and show out and show up and be seen.
Yeah.
But some of the loudest voices that need to be heard are the ones through the whispers in our journaling, in our notebooks. And that word really rocked me to the core. I've had a lot of different reading passages over the last 2 years where whisper has been a part of, as a part of practicing peace and finding peace within yourself. But the word resonated a chord in me and reminded me of an old movie. It reminded me of Robin Williams when he played Mr. Keating in Dead Poet Society. And I don't know if you remember the scene, but he was one of my favorite actors, and what an advocate for, mental health, and still a legacy, and really getting to what we should be doing, not shunning our mental health. But he referred to a resounding yawp. And that's a nod to Walt Whitman and his famous poem Song of Myself, because in our whispers and quiet times of journaling, I do feel that our loudest, most courageous cries to the world are going to bring forth. Each word in this challenge whispered to me to be brave and to take that next step. And they were all things that were between me and the page.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the beauty of journaling. It's just you and the page. The page is patient and it doesn't evaluate. It's just there. So we now have a little bit of backstory about the words, some of your favorite words, and how the challenge worked. But I'd love for you to talk more about your how or your process of journaling. I've already mentioned that I love morning pages. You also are a morning pager. And so I try to go back and forth between that free kind of writing, just whatever comes up, I go with it. I will purposely try to put prompts and questions and things to get me to get out of my rut that I tend to fall into. But do you have a particular structure or process or routine or ritual or something that helps you show up on the page?
I do. And it's journaling used to be, grab your journal whenever, just get it down. But I really became, I guess, I would call it a devoted journaler as I was writing my memoir in the last 2 years. And I would sit down and make it part of my morning routine. So I try to focus positively on the day. I try to think about things to get me started in a positive way, things that I can be grateful for. And then I will have a prayer time, reading something that's sacred to me, a reading time, meditate for a few minutes. I'm not a long meditator by any stretch, but I'll journal about it. And I'll always do like 1.5 to 2 pages, sometimes longer, but morning pages just happen to fit my routine and what I do. So when I sit down, what I've been inspired by in my reading, usually, as you mentioned, it will be a quote or something that remind me of a memory, or in this case, for 60 days, it was words, just these one words. My free writing came from that. So whatever comes out in the page, and it's nothing fancy, but my imagination and my intuition take me through this stream of consciousness journaling. I do go back in the evening and look it over, and then I add some more to my morning pages, and I call it evening gratitude journaling. And it's nothing long or anything like that, but it helps me solidify the word or words, if it's not during those 60 days, to kind of truly embody the word or what I discovered throughout the day. So the journal becomes a part of me in my life and the next day. And that's the best form of self-care, the form of care that's transformative, that's growing, that's evolving, that's expanding. It's not just a journal. My journal is an extension of me.
Oh, I feel like I just need a big grounding breath. Like that is so inspiring just to hear how you have truly embedded this practice of journaling, but not just the practice of journaling, the practice of living, in relation to your journal from the morning to the evening, and how it brings just this level of intention that I admire to your day is so inspiring. How long would you say it took you to get to here? And I don't mean how long, like, I know most of us journal as kids, but how long do you think it's taken, or maybe just insight into the process of, from someone who can't quite figure out how to open the notebook regularly yet, but who wants to someone who is truly living on the page? Do you have any recommendations, or do you have any insight into how that process can be, I don't want to say easier, because I don't want to kind of convey that it's an easy process, but any recommendations for someone who would like to journal so intentionally like you do?
Well, I mean, I've always journaled, but when it became, I hate to say it, the C word, a commitment. Oh, but it became a commitment to myself because I, at one point a couple of years ago, became a very burnt out teacher. And I had a coach. I'm very thankful for that coach. She looked at me and said, "You need to write day, every day. And I want you to make it the first thing you do. I want you to make it a priority because you are working on you. And if this is the thing you love to do the most, why wouldn't you commit that to yourself first thing every day?" And since that time, in making that commitment to her and myself, and what eventually became, my memoir, I use it as a form of self-love. So if you're getting up and looking at yourself in the morning and you're taking a shower, or you're looking at yourself to start your day, I know Mel Robbins has that high five thing. I
Right.
have grabbed my pen and journal. Hi, it's time to journal. um, it's something you have to actively choose. It's not, I'll do it if I feel like it or if I'm inspired. No, it is, you're going to be inspired because you're committing to yourself. You're sitting down and you're expecting to receive this gift that's going to come from inside. You're expecting to receive. So every day it's like opening a gift. If you know that you're going to get something out of it and you're committed to it, every day you open your journal, you are going to get something. It's a positive expectation. It's a mindset commitment shift. And that commitment is to you and to loving yourself through those pages.
Oh, you're actively choosing you by choosing your journal. I love that. I love that. And once you feel that a couple of times, once you get in that groove or that consistency, then that habit certainly is much easier to maintain. But I know it can be hard for people to either make or find the time, depending on our perspective of it. But just hearing you talk about what could happen and how choosing to notebook or choosing to journal is really an act of choosing yourself and self-love and self-care. Well, how could we not find 5 minutes a day to do that with a one-word practice as that, catalyst for starting something new?
Right.
Yeah.
If you have 5 minutes to scroll through your phone, you have 5 minutes to ignore that phone and think about, just even if, choose your own thing, whatever it may be. But if you choose to focus on that one thing and just sit down for 5 minutes, it's the best 5 minutes of your day.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can all find 5 minutes, like you just said, especially if we put those phones down, but we can all find 5 minutes to start such a wonderful habit that could have literally a domino effect that we can't even guess on our lives just by starting to show up on that page.
And you can reward yourself. I don't care if that one word is on a sticker or in
Yeah.
a coloring page. I don't care what style journal you have, but
Right.
just have something positive to focus on, because you're going to find something good within.
Yeah. For me, that would be an excuse to buy a new notebook, would be a one-word notebook journal. So there, we've just given everybody permission to go splurge on something that's going to make them feel happy and help them show up to the page.
That's right.
So earlier when you were introducing yourself, you mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned books, you mentioned your podcast. I know you've got kind of some other things out there in the work. So I'd love for you to talk about those things a little bit more and what you see for yourself about journaling in the future, and really trying to help people see how much journaling could do for them.
Well, it's been a pretty exciting process. Those 60-day journal prompts that I did essentially for a course for other people became a catalyst for returning to the classroom myself, which I'm really excited about. So I've been hanging out with other authors, helping them publish their books the last year to 2 years. I've been having this joyful journaling podcast, and I've also been writing. So I published my first book last year. I was in a best-selling book this year, and I'm publishing in a book next year. I tend to gravitate more toward the short form, short story. That is my my preference in terms of sharing my writing with the world. But you'll see me in different books over the next year. You'll see me podcasting, and I'm going to offer this course with all the inspiration that I built up with these 60 one-word prompts in January of 2024. I thought I was ready this summer, but it was more about really discovering myself and what I needed to do before offering that course. And that's a great place to be, because when I show up in January, I have all this research, momentum, excitement, ready to roll out for other people. So I'll be here in the Adirondacks doing my writing, teaching my kids, and my goal is next winter to have a journaling retreat here in the beautiful Adirondacks. So that's kind of my goal for a year from now.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. You'll have to keep me posted on that because that's a drive that I could easily make and hide away for a little while. A journaling retreat sounds delightful.
Yeah, I'd like to incorporate, breath work and gentle movement and joy, as well as journaling. But what a backdrop and what I call Narnia. We live in Narnia here in the Adirondacks. So I'm very grateful to ever talk about journaling and see where it takes you.
Awesome. Well, can you say a little bit more? Because you glossed over it really quickly, and I want listeners to know a little bit more about your podcast, that was Joyful Journaling. So just give yourself a little plug there, because you did that awfully quickly, and you didn't tell us the titles of your book. So I'm gonna push you for more information.
No problem. There's the introvert in me that comes out. I definitely am getting used to being a little bit more in the spotlight. So my podcast is the Joyful Journaling Podcast, meditative journaling for body, mind, and spirit health. I also have a blog, The Well Within, which draws from different things on my podcast, my life. I have a book that published last year, and right now I'm offering a free audio version so that it's accessible to everybody. That's Embodying Joy, a heart journal. It's stories from my life that also have journaling prompts for everybody, and the journaling prompts don't take very long. And that's on my podcast all summer and early fall. And then Ignite Your Faith is the best-selling book that I was in with a wonderful group of authors from all over the world. And of course, journaling made an appearance in my story. And next year I'm in Ignite Your Joy. Joy is a very special emotion, and not only emotion, but mindset and way of life to me. So I look forward to publishing my story in Ignite Your Joy next year.
You're busy.
I'm very busy. All things literacy, except for it looks different than what you do. We all have a way of finding those words and getting them out into the world, but those are my ways.
I love it. And now you are likely going to keep sharing that with the little people that are surrounding you. And what better gift to give them early on, right?
Yeah, I'm really filled with so much joy. You can probably tell I'm smiling ear to ear, just curating our library for those little ones coming up. I'm really excited to be in the classroom again.
Yeah. Yeah. Listeners can't see you, but I can. And your face does light up when you talk about what's to come pretty soon. So that's wonderful to see. Let's end with you telling listeners where they can find you.
I am on Facebook, and I find people friending me and finding me more and more every day. But my handle both on Facebook and Instagram is the same. It's at Your Writing Doula #2 day. So at Your Writing Doula today. I do consider myself a writing doula, helping people give birth to the words that they need to experience joy in the world.
Oh, I love that. That's a really cool term. I call myself a bookologist, which is, someone who loves books and notebooks and wants to share them with others. So that label for yourself, I love it. It's very fitting.
Thank you. And I love what you're doing. Thank you for always emphasizing the greatness that we can find in being literate people in the world.
Yeah. Oh, what a great way to end. Well, Becca, thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you came on to share with us your, not just, what I thought was going to be a discussion about, a one-word journaling idea, but it turns out, right, you've given us so much more to think about. Journaling is not just a project like this. It's literally about how it can impact and change and transform your life in such beautiful ways. And that is clear in every word that you said here. And that's a message that I think all listeners will love to hear and will likely launch some people back to their notebook if they've gotten away from it. I think you've given them a really great jump start, right? The AED is definitely working today. So thank you for sharing your love, your joy, your passion of all things journaling with us today. It's a great conversation.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Get Literate podcast. You'll find links to all the books, resources, and ideas mentioned in the show notes and at alitlife.com. Plus, if you want more, you might like to join my Patreon community. There, you'll find additional inspiration for your reading and writing life, like bonus podcast episodes, bibliotherapy book calendars, monthly book clubs, notebooking challenges, live events, giveaways, and much, much more. It's only $5 a month, and you get instant access to all of the previous content too. You can learn more at getliterate.co. And one more thing. If you love what you listened to today, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast or take a screenshot of the episode and text it to a friend. This helps the podcast grow and builds our bookish and notebookish community too. Thanks for listening.